Hi, I'm Bill Lancaster, and I'm going to be the host for this video on Meet the Master Sharpener. That's Mike George. I've got him with us here, and so I've been showing you some videos with sharpening tools. All I'm doing is showing you what I've already learned from Mike George or some other really good sharpeners. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn you over to Mike George, and he's going to tell you a little bit about how he learned to sharpen, and then he's going to sharpen a couple of tools. Here's Mike. Give me a minute to put this microphone on him.
Yeah.
I missed it. I think that's got it now. Okay,
Right.
This is Mike George, and so he is from England. He's a Yorkshireman, and he will tell you proudly. So I'll let you have it, Mike.
Cool. Well, I started life as a de Havilland engineering apprentice. That was a 5-year apprenticeship where I started in the training school, doing drafting, learning to file for 3 months, and then into the machine shop. And then after that, I went around the factory floor for 2 or 3 years, and then I ended up as an apprentice in the rocket division. And I learnt my sharpening from an English wood turner that I went to for a few days to learn to be a better turner. His name is Tobias Kay. You can still find him on the website. His speciality is a bowl that he strings, and you can then play as a musical instrument.
Wow.
And he discovered this purely by accident. He found that as the trucks went by his workshop, some of his bowls amplified the sound of the truck. And he looked at this very carefully, and he then found how to reproduce that shape on a consistent basis. And then he stringed it. And this has become, at least in England, a useful tool for therapists dealing with mentally disturbed people. And he was a very good teacher, and I learned a lot from him.
Fantastic.
I have set the platform using this at 45 degrees, and I'm going to sharpen this tool by hand, and all I'm going to do is go from vertical to vertical on the rest. If you have trouble finding vertical going both ways, you can put a pencil on here with an elastic band so you can see it's vertical, and then over to vertical. And that for some people is a very useful guide.
Mm-hmm.
As an engineer who's had some near misses, I am very careful about safety. You notice I don't have long sleeves on. If they were long sleeve, they would be tight at the wrist, so there's no risk of the sleeve getting into the wheel, which could pull you in, and that would be very uncomfortable. Okay.
Yep.
You always wait for the wheel to come up to speed before you start. And I'm going to hold the tool carefully at right angles to the wheel until it just touches, and then roll it until it is vertical. Okay. I'm undoing some not very good sharpening from the past. I should add this is my tool, not Bill's. I've now got a continuous grind and I need to check it.
Okay.
And
sometimes we use a felt tip marker
yeah,
to so you can see
I'm
that.
checking for something. I normally set up using a marker,
Okay.
but this I'm looking for something different.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for that the wings, that this whole surface here is in one plane, that it's not uneven. And if you hold it to the light, and don't shake, you shouldn't be able to get a newly sharpened pencil under there at any point. And I can. So I need to have another go.
Okay, all right.
Let me have a careful look. What have I done wrong? I'm holding it against this so that I have a better, this is giving me a better contrast. Part of the trick here is getting your grip on the tool so that you can go from, you can get that half turn, or more than half turn I should say, without changing your grip. So I'm getting it right round there and I can go all the way around. And
Say a word about getting the right height for your grinder, because
yeah.
most of us have it the wrong height.
Yeah. When I came in here today, I asked Bill to find something to get me a bit taller because it was too high for me, and that means that my elbows come up, and when my elbows up I lose control. But if I have my elbows down at my side, I have much more control. And some people say you should have it high so you can see what you're doing. I say no, control is more important, and then bend your back so you can see what you're doing. There's a lot of people who disagree with me, but there we are. I need to check that again. That is better. The reason that I'm checking that, I can show you better on this tool, which has a manufacturing fault in it, and it makes it impossible to get a straight grind on round there. As you can see, there is a dip in the edge where my finger is. And this makes it very difficult because the cut will jump from that high point to that high point. So you don't know what's happening. And it makes control of the tool more difficult. This is a spindle roughing gouge, so what I do is I'm going to start over here and I will sharpen my tool as I stand at the lathe by bringing the fresh edge into use, and I just don't go far enough to bring that into play. That is a nuisance because if I've got a good sharp corner here and I can roll the tool over and bring it up to a bead and clean the intersection between the bead and the cylinder. So, bit of turning technique. Right. Now, having got the continuous edge, I've got a fairly long edge, and I want to shorten the bevel. So I will show you how I do that. The reason I do that, have you talked about this in other videos, Bill?
I think I have in one video about, we call it grinding off the heel.
Yeah. Right, so there I've ground the heel off. Again, I don't need a jig for that. It's just simple spin it. Now that I've done that, I'm going to clean up the inside of what I've done. I'm used to doing this on a tormek, not at Bill's house.
This is a teardrop shaped hone. You're doing the inside of the gouge with.
And the reason for doing that is that quite often there are grinding marks up the flute. Have you talked about this, Bill? If a grinding mark groove goes through that edge, it ends up with a V in your edge. So there you've got your edge is like that, and then there's a V in the middle. These points break off are fragile, and they break off. So very quickly your tool becomes blunt. So you need to have a good finish in the flute. This is a badly formed flute, and as I said earlier, that dip is an example of the lack of form in the flute. And if you think of that as being a scratch, it's easy to understand how you could have an interruption in your edge. Okay?
Let's stop there for the first video, and I hope we can do this again.
Yeah.
Some more. Okay. So let me get myself back to the microphone, and we're going to call this video to a halt, bring it to a halt, and I'm going to get Mike here to do some more about steels. He's an expert in steels and in sharpening any tool you can imagine. So that's all for now. We'll see you next time. Bye.